always a delay on this. So the first I'm going to do is find out if they can hear me, because I always check that. And as soon as we have that, I can start. Really doesn't take long for the room to fill up, that's for sure. Yes, they can hear me. Yay, yay, yay. Okay. Welcome, everyone. And thank you for joining us tonight. We got lots of yeses there.
A couple of no's.
And I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Lorene Sorrell, for those of you who don't know, and I'm a director for CanPro. And with me tonight is Jessica Sherman. She's another director for CanPro. Lori Kennedy will be joining us at some point, hopefully by the time we get to the discussion portion, because she's putting a child to bed. So it's just the ongoing things that we have to do as independent entrepreneurial people. We're always juggling family life and kids and dogs and cats and everything. So welcome, everyone. Thank you, Jessica, for joining me. And we're going to get started. The first thing I'm going to do is pull up the PowerPoint, so just bear with me for 2 seconds. And you can see this now, right, Jess? Jess?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I can see.
I'm going to make it full screen now.
I'm just going to mute myself so that I don't have any background noise.
Okay, and if the PowerPoint freezes or anything, let me know. If anything goes wrong, please let me know. Okay, so welcome everyone. We are going to be discussing our profession, and this is brought to you by CanPro, the Canadian Association of Holistic Nutrition Professionals, where Jess and myself and Lori and many other wonderful people all contribute and work. And when I say work, I don't mean like paid work. I mean, because that would be overstating it. I mean, we help run it as volunteers on the board. So here's our agenda for tonight. We're going to talk about the future of holistic nutrition in Canada, of course. We're going to talk about the difference between recognition versus regulation. We'll be talking about insurance coverage, both with regard to liability insurance and coverage of our services by extended healthcare packages. Then we're going to talk about board certification and why it's necessary. And then, of course, we're going to talk about the benefits of CanPro membership. And if you stay to the end, we have a lovely little gift for you all that you'll be able to download at the end of this presentation. And I'm going to go through this fairly quickly so we can have time for discussion. And so bear with me with regard to that, because we do really want to answer any questions that you have or hear any concerns that you have. And so I'm just going to get started. Okay, so let's start with dietitians versus holistic nutritionists, or holistic nutrition professionals, which is the term most of us are using now because of the issues in some of the provinces where you can't use the word nutritionist. And so one of the things that I would like to discuss is, you know, it's our position in CanPro that the best thing that could happen is if the dietitians and the holistic nutrition professionals could play nice in the playground. That would be great, because there are other professions that somewhat overlap and they get along just nicely. So one of the things that we have found is, you know, we have to respect what dietitians have accomplished. They went to university. It's a university degree, whereas holistic nutrition is a college level. And they are clinicians. And by that, what we mean is they're the ones who get the jobs in the hospitals. They've been trained to do those premature baby formulas, you know, where you have to measure the food to the gram. And this is actually why they're regulated. It's not because they recommend food. That's not why they're regulated. It's regulated because they actually could cause harm to these premature babies and some of the other things that they do in the hospital setting. And the doctors wanted them regulated to make sure that their standards are good. So when you tell the dietitians that you're the clinicians and we're the practical, they're okay with that. And if we talk about what we do, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a couple of slides, exactly, you know, where we fit, they can see that we do have a role to play that they can't necessarily play. And this makes it much better for us. The problem we have right now is that there are too many people claiming to do nutrition besides ourselves. So dietitians aside, you know, you have MDs, NDs, you have people on TV, and all of them are often saying things similar to what we say in general. And it really is more, we're more than food. We are more than just making food recommendations. And so for us to have a future, we really have to define that. We have to sort of show where we're at, where we're different, so the public isn't confused. And what we really want to show is how supportive our role is. You know, we're not just about food, because that allows us to distinguish ourselves in a way that, and with things that we do that no one else does. And if we can do that, that means that our profession has a place. And if we don't do that, then we're going to be confused with other people forever. And it's going to be harder and harder for us to say, you know, why come to see us when there's these other people doing similar things. So that's a really important sort of distinction that we wanted to make today, is, you know, really defining who we are and what it is we do. So why are we different? Well, we do a coaching role more than just about any other type of profession. Because we're unregulated, we have the freedom to do in a session what needs to be done with the client, whether it's just sitting there talking to them, or, you know, anything we want to do that we think might be helpful to them, taking them to the store, you know, cleaning out their kitchen cupboards, whatever they need, we can actually help them with that and sort of coach them to know what to do. We come up with practical strategies. We don't just hand people a food list that says eat this and don't eat that, which is what most people who also are in the nutrition field, if you want to say that, do. We don't do that. We actually try to find out what's going right, what's going wrong, and come up with really practical solutions for them that help them, you know, do what it is that they need to do. We provide ongoing support. We have no restrictions into how often we see a client, for how long. Yes, we have to price it accordingly for, you know, the use of our time and whatever. But if the client wants to see us, we are there for them. We don't have regulations telling us what we must do in a session, or, you know, how long that session may be, like the NDs do. Even the dietitians have limitations as to how long they can see someone. And within the regulated aspects, when they're in private practice, they do have a little more freedom. So this is a really important thing that we do. We talk about lifestyle and making lifestyle changes. No other profession does that. So we talk about sleep, we talk about exercise, we talk about, you know, finding joy in their life and encouraging them to do something they have passion for, whether it's ballroom dancing or painting or, you know, taking cooking classes, whatever. This is something we consider. We recommend to other practitioners for similar reasons. You know, if they need somebody who has, you know, an osteopath or a chiropractor or a massage therapist, we do all that kind of thing as well. And of course, we also work on the body, mind, spirit. And when I say that, we're not counselors. We all know that. We're not trained to be counselors, but it's something we think about and consider and take into consideration when we're talking to our clients. You know, we consider what they might be going through emotionally in terms of, you know, even connecting with us. And then, of course, how that might be impeding their healing. And so then we have the option of recommending them to a counselor, or, you know, telling them to journal or go for, you know, walk in the woods, or recommend books. You know, it's a component to what we do that can play a positive role, and at least get them started in this direction if they do have emotional blocks. So these are, if we wanted to sort of sum up what our role is, if we wanted to sort of define what we do, we, number one, listen and validate the client. As I said, we can spend as much time talking to them, and people really are looking for people who listen. They don't get that from their MDs or their NDs because the time frame they have with them is so short. Even the NDs, you go to see them for an hour and a half, but because of their regulations, there's things they must accomplish within that an hour and a half that doesn't necessarily mean speaking to you. And of course, the doctors are all overworked, and they do need someone they can discuss things with. And so we can play that role. We can educate around root cause and provide them with answers. So we're looking at the liver, we're looking at blood sugar, we're looking at the gut. We're looking at stress levels. We're looking at everything that could be playing a role into how they arrived at the physical condition they're at when they come to see you. And we look for answers. And it's not that we have all the answers, but we're looking, and we can often either provide some answers or point them in a direction where they might be able to get more information. We create solution-based protocols. So, they have a problem. Maybe it's they can't get up in time for breakfast. They run out the door, they never eat breakfast. And so we can sit down with them. And I know this sounds so simplistic, but I can't believe how often it works. You have this person who doesn't eat breakfast. And so you say to them, well, can you get up 20 minutes earlier and have breakfast? And they go, oh, I never thought of that. And of course, you're like, how could you not think of that? That's really simple. But the problem is they're stressed, they're overwhelmed, and no, they don't think of it. So we can come up with these kinds of solutions that they would never think of. And we can incorporate those kinds of things into protocols along with the foods we recommend and the supplements we recommend. And it's very solution-based. We also provide practical lifestyle change recommendations, which are going to support the client. And it can even be things like calling a restaurant or restaurants they go to on a regular basis and find out the healthier items on the menu. We do all of that sort of thing, and nobody else does this. And finally, we provide ongoing accountability because they can talk to us, because they can feel comfortable, saying what's going right and what's going wrong with whatever we've recommended or whatever they've agreed to do. We provide a level of accountability that they know that there's someone they can talk to and keep them focused on their goals. And this will improve compliance and how effective any protocols may be. So when you look at that kind of role in this sort of light, it shows how different we are from others who provide nutrition information. So it's not just about the nutrition information. All of this that I described is extremely valuable. And we're the ones who can do this in the entire healthcare field. We're the ones who can do this, and we're the only ones who can do this. So this is what people have to learn about us if we want a future in this healthcare field. This is what they need to know we do and how we do it. So when it comes to growing our profession, it's going to take several strategies. So the first is we have to act with integrity within our code of ethics and scope of practice. That is number one. We can't be having people do things outside of scope. It hurts the reputation of the profession. And once we've got it clear in people's mind what we do and what we don't do, we have to adhere to that. We need to send primary care providers and employers client care letters. So basically in letters or information that indicates what it is we do. And we can do this with regard to each client that we see. We can have, information that we provide to our client's doctor or our client's employer or our client's insurance company to raise awareness so they know what service that they're getting with regard to what we do, and in a way that it makes sense to them so they can see the value of it. And number three, we can promote our services in the corporate sector. There's a lot of advantages to this because it's the corporate sector employers that determine what gets covered by extended healthcare benefits. They are also a source of jobs because they often bring in people for various wellness projects, whether they're lunch and learns or even one-on-one counseling sessions or wellness programs. There's a lot of jobs to be had there doing what we want to do. So they're good jobs. And finally, we need to promote our profession to the public because they're the ones who make the decision to come and see us. So they need to know why they're coming to see us. If they think it's just for food instructions, that may or may not interest them, or they may be swayed by other things that they see or read or hear. But if they understand they're getting these other components that I just described, it's going to mean something to them. And finally, we want to promote to other professionals, other practitioners, and companies, so because they're the source of jobs. And so if NDs really understood what we did, they wouldn't think we're good for just doing menu plans. And MDs need to know the value of what we do. And I think actually the MDs would probably get it really, really well, what we just described and how valuable that would be, because as a profession, they understand lack of compliance. They deal with it all the time. So these are the kind of strategies that are very important for us to grow our profession. However, professional growth is not likely to happen if each practitioner is acting outside of a unified professional association. So, you know, if we're all on our own and we don't speak with one voice, how do we convey this message that this is what we do? We have to have somebody saying, this is what we do, and everybody understanding this is what we do, and that will help create this awareness. And in order to achieve recognition, all holistic nutritionists should have to function under a professional association. That would be the most helpful thing for us to have a voice. Okay, so let's talk about regulation, because if I were to ask most holistic nutritionists, they would probably say that, you know, the reason we don't have as many opportunities as we should is because we're not regulated. And that's a myth. And it's really important that we understand how regulation occurs. It occurs because the governments, and it's all provincial, so each province has their own regulations, wants to protect the public from harm. I mentioned earlier the dietitians are regulated because of the work they do in the hospitals. We are deemed not harmful, and this is why we will never, ever be regulated. So it's really important that we understand this. And if you think that's just talk or whatever, because I know there's talk in certain circles that we're about to be regulated in Ontario, it's absolutely not happening. There hasn't even been an application filed. The government likes a certain level of consistency in terms of education. There's all kinds of factors as to why you're regulated. But the biggest one, and I've read the regulations, so I know this, is you have to show how you harm the public. That's exactly what the first criteria is in the process. You have to write down how you've harmed the public. And the second thing you have to demonstrate in the next criteria is give specific examples how you've harmed the public. So that's what it's all about. It's not about validating what you do in terms of its value in the healthcare field. It has nothing to do with regulation. Here in Ontario, we had the personal support workers. There's 6,000 of them. They tried to get regulated. They were turned down, and they have more potential to do harm than we do. And remember, this harm has to be within scope. Anybody can do harm to anybody at any time. But if it's not within scope, it's not a problem of the profession, it's a problem of the individual, and that's what your liability insurance is for. So it's harmful within scope, and it has to be serious harm, like killing people or groping them sexually. Those are the kind of things they regulate. You should read the massage therapist regulations. That's what it's all about. Don't touch here, don't do this, wear this, clients must have this. You know, it's all about sex. And when it comes to the homeopaths and the naturopaths, it's because of cancer. They actually can serve as primary caregivers for cancer patients. We cannot. And so what the governments want is to be able to step in and force the practitioner to send a cancer client to an oncologist if they deem it necessary. We would never be in that position. Therefore, this is why we're deemed not harmful. So, as I said, we're not going to be regulated. And more importantly, governments do not want the cost. They need to have an overwhelming reason to need to do it. And there has to be enough of us for them to even worry about before they'll even think about it. They want it to be one profession per college with similar education, and that's it. They don't want to deal with an association that has different practitioners in it, like chiropractors and aromatherapists and holistic nutritionists. They'll have nothing to do with that. And it's a costly process for them. So,
Maureen, can I just interrupt you for a second?
Sure.
Can you see the chat, or do you want me to tell you when there's a question? Or do you want to do that at the end?
If it needs to be answered now, I can answer it now. I cannot see the chat.
You can see the chat. Okay, Joanna just wants some clarification about liability insurance covering us out of scope.
Okay, it's coming up.
Okay.
It has its own slide. Okay, so if we're not going to be regulated, what is then recognition? So from a government perspective, there is something called government recognition of a self-regulated profession. So for example, the chartered accountants have this. The human resource people have this. So they self-regulate, but they have gone to their legislature, and it's again provincial, and got it recognized as the official self-regulatory process for the profession. And it's a big project that, again, you have to go province by province. We probably don't have the numbers for it, but it is something we can work towards in the future, and it is something we could have. And that would be very, very good if we did have that. It does require a number of steps. And the first is that our standards must match those of other regulated professions. So if we're going to self-regulate, they have to be standards that are equal to those that a regulated profession would have, so that no one can call them into question. Two, we have to have the numbers in order to be taken seriously. So, you know, it may seem like there's a lot of holistic nutritionists, especially when you go into the health food stores and you find one there. But in general, compared to dietitians or compared to, you know, chiropractors or whatever, we don't really have that many numbers. We have high concentrations more in BC, Alberta, and Ontario. We have very few in Saskatchewan and Manitoba, and, you know, very few in Quebec. We do have some in Halifax and New Brunswick, and a few in the territories and PEI and Newfoundland, right? So, you know, it's not like there's concentration is throughout the country the way it should be and the way it is for other professions. So the next steps, you know, we should be taking is going to have to be around making sure that we are the best that we can be as a self-regulated profession. And therefore, if anyone questions anything we do, we can say, well, you know, here's our standards. This is what we do. And by the way, if they match the regulated professions, that people will recognize this, because people like insurance companies and other practitioners and government, they know what the regulated professions have to go through. So this brings me to liability insurance, and why you need to have the right coverage and be aware of what your scope of practice is. So you have to know they are covering you based on your scope. And that's what they expect you to be doing. And you need to make sure your liability provider covers you for whatever it is you will be doing. So for example, if you're doing programs or one-on-one consulting, they don't care too much about those kinds of things, because that's all kind of falls under the nutrition banner. Online consultations, this is very important to us as a profession, because a lot of us are doing this. It's a great way to extend your reach beyond your geographical location. And you need to make sure your liability insurance covers you for that. And I can tell you that the one we have with CanPro does, because we made sure of that, because we know this is an important new element in our profession. If you want to do cooking classes, the liability provider should, if they know what they're doing, require you to have a food and health safety certificate. Now, that's not a hard thing to get. It's not an expensive thing to get, but what it does is it provides the insurance company with a level of protection that says you know how to make food and not poison people, which is basically what a food and health safety certificate is. And so if your liability provider doesn't require that, you're either not covered for cooking classes, which is more than likely because you were never trained in this area, or B, they don't know what you're doing. And if something did happen, they would probably not necessarily stand behind you, because they didn't really understand what you were doing. So this is why it's really important to make sure your liability provider knows what you do. You want to be covered for email and phone contact, because again, it's an essential part of what we do to provide ongoing support to clients. If you do writing, liability providers can cover you for plagiarism. And then, of course, there's lab tests within scope. And I was asked recently, what's a lab test within scope? And essentially, we don't touch people. So it's any kind of lab test that might be useful to what we do. where we don't touch people. So for example, hair mineral analysis, we don't cut the hair, the client cuts the hair, so we can do it. Pinprick blood spot tests for IgG or zonulin, we don't prick the finger, the client pricks the finger, therefore it's within scope. Saliva hormone testing, within scope. Nobody gets saliva out of somebody else's mouth. It's always done by the person themselves. And again, when I say this, I don't mean the medical doctor's urine and poop tests. We will never have access to those or be able to do those. But there are some alternative urine tests or poop tests coming along that we could do in theory, because again, the client collects the specimen, and usually the way these labs work, they put it into the package, they mail it off. So these are the kind of things we can do, but there are a lot of liability providers who don't cover you for that, and you have to make sure that they do. And then, of course, it's anything extra that you do that they should know about. You have to make sure they know and are including it. So we have situations where it's, and I don't mean another modality. So like if you're also a Reiki person, you would of course carry in liability insurance for that. And most, liability providers for insurance will cover you for Reiki. It might be slightly extra or whatever, but you don't have to pay double or anything like that. I'm talking about if you go and learn something that technically is out of scope, like biotherapeutic drainage, or live blood microscopy or something like that, where you go and you take, a course for a weekend or whatever, and they give you a certificate, and now you're going to start doing biotherapeutic drainage on your clients, which technically doesn't fall under the holistic nutrition banner. It's not that you can't do that. You just have to discuss it with your provider and make sure they understand what it is and will include that as part of your liability coverage. You'd say, here's how I got trained, here's my certificate, this is what it is. And so these are what we need to understand about liability insurance in order to stay in scope. So if you know what your scope is, and certainly you've all been trained with scope of practice, we make sure that our members all have access to the scope of practice within the materials that we give them. And the goal is that we are aware of what it is, and we stick with that. When it comes to insurance...
Can I interrupt? Judy wants to know about saliva DNA testing. Would that be within scope?
The what? Sorry, who?
Saliva DNA testing.
Something DNA testing? I didn't get you first.
Saliva.
Oh, yeah, that's fine. Spit's fine.
And also insurance for speaking engagements.
Yes, that would be also covered. That is very typical under most because you're not actually feeding anybody and you're not doing one-on-one. So it's actually a lower risk factor. So it would be covered as well. Now, when it comes to insurance coverage for benefits, what you have to understand is nutrition is not standard in packages that are created by the insurance companies. So your insurance companies come up with these packages that they offer employers, and it would include dental and vision and prescriptions. And then they have something called paramedic coverage, which is where the NDs and the the NDs and the chiropractors and the massage therapists are. And an employer picks of those things what they want, right? They don't necessarily have to have all of them. So when nutrition is covered by extended healthcare, the employer has added it. So it doesn't really matter what the insurance company approves. It's what does the employer want? What does the employer want for their employees? So in terms of nutrition, anytime you have a client who says they're covered, their employer added it. And even if the company recognizes us, like we have Industrial Alliance and Claim Secure that recognize our members, and we have Manulife and Great West that call us and ask if our member, not call us, email us and ask us to verify if someone is our member. And it doesn't really matter if they recognize us. If the employer hasn't got it in their plan, it's not covered. Now, sometimes with the employer's permission, the personal spending accounts that a lot of the employers are having in their packages, it can be covered under that. But again, the employer has to approve it. So when we are covered, so if you do come across someone who has nutrition in their package, you have to make sure it means us specifically. And so there is this category that is in a lot of packages. It says dietitian / nutritionist. And because the dietitians have to be added too. It doesn't matter that they're regulated. But that dietitian / nutritionist does not, the nutritionist part does not mean us. It means graduates of the dietetic college who are not dietitians. So there's only so many graduates of the dietetic college who go on to be dietitians, and then the rest of them can set up practice. And that's what are nutritionists without the holistic in front of it. And a lot of holistic nutritionists have slid under this banner many, many times because the insurance companies don't know the difference, because you say, oh, I'm a nutritionist. And that's one of the things that caused problems in Alberta. The dietitians got really mad about that, and that's one of the things that they discussed in the when they got the Alberta government to disallow the holistic nutritionist from using the word nutritionist. So it's really important that we not do that anywhere else, because we don't want that happening in other provinces where we still get to use the word nutritionist, but we always want to modify it with the word holistic nutritionist. So that holistic word, they don't mind. Dietitians don't mind when it's holistic nutrition, but they really don't like it when you just say nutritionist. Now, in an insurance coverage, so it would be specified in different ways. It might be wellness practitioner, it might be holistic nutritionist, it might be your designation is listed, it might be the association is listed. So it's going to vary from insurance package to because it's the insurance package, not the insurance coverage or company, I should say. So, but you need to make sure they know who you are and what you are properly. And then if they have that, and it does exist, so it's not like it doesn't exist, there are packages out there that include us, then it's covered. So what insurance companies usually do when they do cover it is they will contact us to verify membership. And what I have been seeing, and this has happened quite a bit, I have to turn, like I get contacted quite a bit, and they say, is this person your member in good standing? And they list their graduation number, and I say, well, no, that's not their association number. That's a graduation number. And that doesn't count. But a lot of people are using their graduation number. If you're a CSNN grad, your RHN number, that's your graduation number. That's not a professional association number, but the insurance companies don't know that. And so again, they're sliding under sort of a lack of knowledge to, make it look like they are following the same kind of procedures as other regulated professions, but they're not, because they're not a member of an association. And so this is problematic, and it can, if there's enough of us doing it, it can catch up with us in the future, which I remember when I graduated in 1999, there was an association that had us having coverage with Sun Life and Great West, and we lost it because we weren't properly regulated, even as a self-regulated profession. And we spoke to Sun Life many years ago, and they basically said, we don't want to have to do the due diligence on the profession. So that's why we're not covering the services anymore, and we're going to stick with the regulated professions. Well, fast forward about 10 years, and things are loosening up again, which is good for us. So we just have to make sure that we do things appropriately so that we don't lose this again, because we're not a regulated profession. So it's very important we don't mislead them, and it has the potential to hurt all of us. So this is what they care about. They care that an association can verify the practitioner's professionalism. Again, it's all about whether or not you're at risk of getting sued. Nobody wants to work with practitioners who get sued a lot. So the liability providers don't want to do it, and they'll just charge you more. And of course, the ones covering health benefits don't want to put their customers at risk. They want practitioners that stay within scope. We've even had phone calls from insurance companies asking if certain things are in scope for our profession. I've had 2 phone calls from an insurance company. One was asking if biotherapeutic drainage, that's why I happened to mention it earlier, is in scope. And I had to say, no, it's not. And then I went on to explain what the circumstances might be where they would be allowed to do it. The same with live blood microscopy. So, they are asking more questions as these submissions are coming across their desk. And they just want to make sure we're not going to cause problems for them and their clients. That's what they care about. So that means we have to have really good standards.
Lorraine, can I interrupt you for a sec? Because there's a bunch of questions coming through. Can we address them?
Sure.
Okay. Let me go back a bit. Ashley was asking about reading blood work from an MD or an ND and whether that would be covered under our scope of practice or insurance.
Well, it's not, because they've seen an MD who already told them what it said, it doesn't matter. So go ahead and read the blood tests. You're fine to do it because the person who, had them do the blood test has already said what they said. And if it helps you help them in some fashion, there's not an issue with that.
Yeah, you might get into a little bit of a sticky point if you were recommending different parameters, for example.
Yeah, if you were countering what the MD had said,
yeah,
in some fashion, that's, again, something that is not within our scope of practice to do, so you're stepping out of scope. But for you to actually read the blood test, like if you, for example, if we're talking about thyroid, and you want to see if they're close to the bottom end of the normal, there's nothing wrong with that. If that's going to help you make some more recommendations for them for food, and maybe explain why their thyroid seems to be a little sluggish, not that you would say that to them because that's diagnosing, but you could certainly use it to help make your recommendations. And go ahead.
Ashley's followed up her question to say, if we were able to have access to blood work, where is the line for our scope? For example, if someone's levels of a nutrient are within normal range but suboptimal, would that be within our scope to recommend supplementation if an MD said it was fine?
Yes.
Right.
But your only problem is going to be that the MD said it was fine. So you have to be careful what you say to the client.
Yeah.
You can't go, well, I say it's not fine. You can't say that, but you can say, you know what? B vitamins are good for these, to help with these symptoms that you've acknowledged, and maybe having a little more B vitamins might be helpful to you. Something to that effect.
And you can also never go wrong with recommending foods that are high. Right?
Exactly.
Okay, another question from Kathy. She's asking about 321 Well. Is it still around? Is there benefit? What happened to them?
Yes. So 321 Well, for those of you who don't know, are an organization that is trying to establish wellness insurance packages within corporations. So how this would work is that instead of taking that paramedic coverage with the regular insurance company, so the regular insurance company would still apply, give their employees the benefit of dental and vision and whatever, they could opt out of the paramedic and opt in for this insurance package that they've created for the wellness industry. And it's a really good program because what it will do is allow people to choose any wellness practitioner they like, and it has a lot of value to it. And you're probably saying, well, why would an employer do this, or why won't that get the insurance companies mad? No, because the insurance companies hate the paramedic coverage because people use it all up. They max out their ND, they max out their chiro, they max out their massage therapy. People even buy gift certificates with their massage therapy and give it away. And so insurance was never designed to be used completely all the time by everyone. So paramedic coverage has not worked out well for the insurance companies or for the employers, but this is designed that it doesn't have those penalties to it. And it's a long topic. I won't go into it much, but it is really a great solution for our industry because we really do belong more in the wellness side of things than in the illness side of things. But it's a big, big project, and it's North American wide, and CanPro is affiliated with them. And they actually provide a license saying they will only work with people within associations. And they provide a licensing, and we actually have a really cheap rate that our members can access, but it's just not, the word hasn't been spread well enough yet. So this is a big project that's going to take years. But yes, they have been officially recognized by Canada, the CRA, Canadian Revenue, as a healthcare, as an insurance provider, and with the Canadian Insurance Association as well. But now they have to get the word out, and they have to get the employers on board, and over time, this will mount to something, but it's too soon. But yeah, they're still around, Kathy. Kathy, I know who Kathy this is.
I'm going to throw a couple more at you, and then I'll let you keep going. Okay. Okay. Can we still use Holistic Nutritionist on our website promo materials when we're marketing across the country, including Alberta?
As long as you don't advertise directly in Alberta, and it's because Albertans are seeing you because you are on the internet, yes, you can. It's when you go to Alberta, or you have, a flyer published in Alberta, or circulating materials in Alberta, you can't. And this is also not allowed in New Brunswick, or Nova Scotia, or Quebec either. But yes, in Ontario, if you go to my website, it says registered holistic nutritionist. And it will stay that way unless something happens in Ontario, and the same in BC, same in Saskatchewan, Manitoba, the Northwest Territories, Yukon, PEI, Newfoundland. We're all fine. And it doesn't matter that someone in Alberta can see that. Alberta can't regulate the internet. Does that make sense? Unless it's direct. So it's a local Alberta business advertising in Alberta.
Awesome. Okay, I'm going to answer these other ones in the chat because I think I can handle them.
Okay, great. Thanks, Jess. Okay, so this brings us to CanPro. So for those of you who don't know, it was all because a group of us got together in 2007 to see what we could do as a profession. And as it worked out, CSNN invited us to take over the CSNN AA and work under that banner while we did all our research. As it happened, for some reason, they decided I should be president, so I was. And so I did that for 3 years, working with a team, and we researched everything. We read everybody's regulations. We talked to regulated professions like NDs and massage therapists, and we talked to everybody from other schools. And, we just talked just to learn everything we can. And it wasn't our intent to start an association. We never even considered that. But when we gathered all this research, it became very clear to us what we needed to do as a profession. And when we talked to others who might be of interest to sort of, doing this from an association level, nobody really wanted to talk to us or hear what we had to say, which was really frustrating because we had quite a mandate from the CSNN-AA membership, and which is quite large and much larger than any association. And so it was really frustrating to us that this was the case. So we ended up deciding that, if we're going to move this forward, we need to start our own organization. So we did this in 2010. And then, of course, when you start anything new, you have to go through all the lumps and bumps of starting something new and trying to have a smooth running ship before you get to do a lot of things that you might want to do. But we're kind of at the point where we're ready to rock, and we've got even more research that we've done that we think is appropriate, and we've got quite a plan going on for us right now. So that's who we are and why we started. And what we came up with was a board certification process. And everybody says, so what benefit does the board certification process have for us now? And of course, the answer is not much, because we haven't got the recognition that we're looking for. However, we're the only profession that doesn't have one. And it really struck home to me, there was a few months ago in one of my membership groups Facebook page, there was some Reiki, some of the people are Reiki people, and somebody made a comment like, oh, I'm not really doing my Reiki right now. I haven't got my license. So I'd have to re-get my license, and then I'll probably add it to my, and I went, license? Reiki? Okay, so somehow the Reiki people have established clearly in the minds of their practitioners that they have to go through this process in order to be able to practice Reiki. But somehow we in the holistic nutrition profession haven't gotten through that there's anything you do after you come out of your school like every other profession. So it doesn't matter whether you're regulated or not. Every profession, except ours, has a board certification process. So you graduate from your course, and then you write an exam, and you're part of the association, and you have your board certification. And even the fitness people have it, and it doesn't matter what level of education they have for fitness. They have to pass this exam to work in and be a part of association to work in the fitness clubs. So with this, if we have a board certification process, it's going to help demonstrate our professionalism to government and insurance companies and other professionals and consumers. It goes back to what I was saying, is having the same standards as the other professions. If we want to have people not attack us or, question our credentials, this is one of the things we must have in order for them to understand that we know our scope of practice and code of ethics and we're professional. And it will also help keep our liability rates low, because it demonstrates to the liability providers that we know what we're doing as well. So the board certification process that we have, we tried to keep it simple, because we're just trying to get this going. It's basically you write an exam. So it covers code of ethics, scope of practice, and aspects of professionalism. And what we learned is that no one cares what we do. They just care that we know what we're doing professionally within scope. That's all they care about. So what the exam is very simple. And again, you don't have to write it in order to join CanPro. You write it after you join CanPro. And we don't put a time limit on this. You do it when you're ready. We don't charge extra for it. We don't charge to write the exam. We don't charge for the materials, because they're all sent out electronically anyway to study from. And all you need is a proctor, and you write this exam. It's not even a long exam. It's only about an hour and a half. And again, is this the most thorough we could be? No, but it's the start that we need. It's the start that will help us being able to say, yes, we have standards in place. We know our members know scope of practice, code of ethics, because we've got this board certification process in place. So that's one of the key factors we feel is necessary for our profession to gain the recognition and the consistency that will allow people to understand what we do. So in terms of how we get better recognition, we also have a strategy. So right now we have a big campaign going on where we are actively marketing the corporate sector. We are targeting human resource people and sending them proposals about us and what we do and how we do it. It's a quite detailed proposal that we have worked on, and it's a very good proposal. And we're basically asking them to add us to their extended healthcare packages, plus introducing them to the fact that, we are people who can be brought into the corporate world and, do different things and stuff like that, lunch and learns, one-on-one counseling, whatever. So this is, we're targeting key cities right now, and we're going to just keep doing this over and over and over and over again. We have found a way to get the key people to contact within a given corporation. We've worked on this for 2 years, and now we're actively doing it. And we're also talking with the insurance companies. We might as well. We have another proposal for them, so that if their corporate client contacts them, they're aware of who we are and what we do. We already have, as I mentioned, several that check with us to see if our nutrition professionals are our members. So, there is more of this coming along. And these are two really important strategies that will help get us more jobs and work and more recognition. We do have the strongest standards. They do match other professions. We also require upgrading 25 hours. That's pretty standard in most professions as well. But we allow for 10 hours of practical, because we think it's important that you don't just do educational, that you actually use the information that you learn. And so we'd like to see practical upgrading, which is just basically working in the field. We are networking with other practitioners and companies to create more job opportunities. So again, we're going to educate them what we do, what we can do, how that can help them. So in the case of NDs or MDs, how that'll help their their patients. In the case of companies, how that can help, with whatever jobs they need done. One of the best areas for getting a full-time job in our profession is the supplement industry and the health food industry. They actually have good jobs for us, and they like us, and that's been a big growth area for us anyway. So, but we want to strengthen that so that they know that we have good standards. And of course, we're working with our members. So whenever a member asks us for support, we provide whatever we can, because we want to help them grow their business too. So it's always, we respond as needed to the members on an individual basis. Plus, we also host webinars, and we also run a workshop every year called Building Your Nutrition Business Workshop to strengthen information that they might need to help them with their businesses. So our issue as CanPro is if we don't have enough members, and this is one of the reasons we haven't launched the program previously, is because we were afraid of creating a demand without a way to fill it. So what if we succeed magnificently and they're looking for holistic nutritionists that match the description we gave them, and there aren't enough? We kind of finally decided, we got to start somewhere, so let's just do it. And if we do it step by step, we're not doing it all at once. We'll just do it and keep doing it every week. We'll send out more proposals and see if at the same time we can get more members in, and that way, hopefully it'll all work out nicely. So we would really like it if you would join CanPro and invest in your profession, because I'm hoping, as you can see with what we've talked about, what it is we could do together that would improve our profession and create this permanent place in the nutrition field where we deserve to be. I mean, we really do have a place. We have a great service that we can offer people that no one else can, and it would be a shame if we didn't take our place. I think you would find it's worth the investment. I mean, you can't look at it as, an immediate thing. There are some benefits immediately, but there's also going to be more long-term as well. So as a CanPro member, you're going to have a good source of support to help you grow your business, as I mentioned. And you're going to have someone to vouch for you and verify your standing. This will increase your credibility for people to know that you belong to an association like ours. And then in terms of your membership money, it's going to go towards advancing the profession. We have operated very lean and meanly. We don't spend a lot of money on a lot of things. And we just have hired someone to answer the phones and emails. And again, it's done in a very cost-effective way. Prior to that, I was doing it. I've been doing it for 5 years as a volunteer. We have, someone who does our books that we pay and our newsletter that we pay, very small expenses. So this money that we are collecting is going to go towards marketing. We'd like to at some point hire a marketing person, but we're also paying, to track down someone to help us track down these human resource people that we're marketing to. It's not expensive, but, we're going to need lots and lots and lots and lots of names, because that's how you create a movement. It's a very grassroots promotional practice. So your membership money would be going towards advancing the profession. And then in terms of straight benefits, we have very low liability rates. It's $150 a year. It's the lowest that you'll find, and it's very comprehensive. We have documents you can use in your practice, like a proper receipt template for the insurance companies. I mentioned the Building Your Nutrition Business workshop we host. Plus, we also send out regular emails to talk about different upgrading things that come along. Plus, we often host free webinars. They can be from supplement companies, or they could be from companies that have services that would be helpful for your practice. Or we've done some with lab companies that will give you accounts, things like that, that is just good information for you to know. And they do count for upgrading, by the way, those free webinars. And then if you join, you also get one of our trainings for free. So again, this is all designed to help you have more skills and knowledge for your business. So we have the client-centered counseling, which helps you with counseling your clients with motivational listening skills discussed and motivational interviewing techniques. We have practical research will help you find the best kind of research. The building your business one, which talks about doing corporate proposals and presentations, and then it has some other smaller introductory business information in it as well. And then the last one is marketing to MDs, which of course is how you get referrals from MDs and other practitioners. There's a method to it, that steps that you have to take that will allow them to see who you are and what you have to offer, including, learning how to make appointments with them, because they will take appointments, as a way of growing your business. So you get one of those free for everybody who joins. So if you're wondering what it costs, a standard membership is $285. However, if you are a new graduate within the last 6 months, and by the way, that's a loose 6 months, we're not really sticklers for that, it's $235. And if you're not practicing, but you want to support this initiative and you want to be in the loop because maybe you plan to practice in the future and you're, just not ready to set up your business, or maybe you don't plan to set up a business, you just want to be supportive, we do have an associate membership for $100. And you can get all the information and applications if you go to canpro.org/memberships, and you'll find all the information there. In the meantime, we have a little gift for you, and it's a document called 5 Strategies to Convert Your Prospects to Paying Clients. And it's, again, a document that we created to just give you some tips as to how you should conduct your interview. When somebody calls you up for an appointment, how do you take them from that into being a paying customer or client? And so I think Jess is going to pop up the offer there that you can just click, and then you can go and takes you to the download page. And you'll also find a link to the membership page on that page as well. And that's the end of my presentation. So I'm going to come out of screen share.
There's lots of questions, Lorraine. So the offer, yeah,
oh yay,
yeah, lots of really good, really good questions, and valuable discussion to be had, I think, right now. I put the offer up, so I think you have to go to the top there where you can go to offers. I think they should be. Do they have to click on offers?
I don't know. I've never seen it from the
click on offers, and there should be a thing up there that says 5 strategies to convert your prospects to paying clients, and download now. And you just click on that, and it'll give you the PDF. You don't have to opt in or anything like that. It's just right there. So if you have trouble with that, just write it in the chat, and I'll see. No, we can't. You can see it without clicking on the offers. Okay.
Okay, perfect. See it, because we can't see it from this side.
Yeah.
Okay, so where are we starting with the questions?
You can see that now. Okay. Some of these I think I answered, but I was replying to particular people, so I don't know if you can all see those answers. I just hit reply. So hopefully you can see.
Okay.
Lots of questions about having a unified association for our industry. That's come up 4 or 5, maybe 6 times. Also, several questions, so I think we should address that, but also several questions about having this information available easily. Like if people are like creating a presentation and they want to know whether they're overstepping their scope, where can they go and get like a reminder of the scope of practice, like a portal kind of thing?
Well, if they're a CanPro member, we actually have it in a member Dropbox folder, and they can download the document anytime they want.
No, that's what I thought. So can you do that when I?
Okay, I just don't know where to start here. There's so many.
Okay, well, can we address the? Here's one. I can't stay till the end, but wonder what the chances are of getting other professional associations to all join one unified force. I think this would be the best way to move forward. And in that same vein, people were asking whether that would lend to our credibility in terms of raising our numbers and having a unified voice. And there are a few people on here who are also members of CANMP who wonder about also being with CanPro and all that.
Well, we tried. Right, Jess? we tried to unify it, but it's people don't want to change what they are doing. And we really think this board certification thing is really, really important, as I'm hoping that you see now. So we haven't closed that door. We would like to see that happen, but we really think there's no point in doing it if we're not going to do it properly. And we have to do it properly. We're completely open to it. As I said, we made the overtures and we tried. We have not given up on it. But it's not happening at the moment. So we decided to proceed with what we had. We had this marketing plan for quite some time. So we decided we'll just see what happens. And, momentum creates goodwill. So maybe that will be what creates the initiative to understand that this is the route that we need to go. And hopefully that will work out in the long run. That is what we would like to see. I'll just say that much. Is that a good way to put it, Jess?
Yeah, I think that's what everyone would like to see. There's just a lot of finessing because there's a lot of different visions out there in terms of what we need and what we should do. And so we're all talking to each other. It's an interesting process to figure out the best way forward for all of us, right? And I think the more people we can get in these associations and voicing their opinions, the better we can kind of lead the paths that people want.
Yeah, we just didn't want to wait anymore. We had put on what we had wanted to do off for 2 years because we wanted to see what we could do to unite things. And when it wasn't going to happen, we thought, you know what, let's just create some momentum here. Let's just do it, and we'll see what happens for the future. But we all think it would be a good idea if there was one voice. All right.
And Janet said, is it a conflict of interest belonging to both CAMPRO and CSNN AA, the Alumni Association? There's a couple of questions about the difference between what we're doing and the Alumni Association.
No, apples and oranges. So the Alumni Association is an alumni association. It's not a professional association. It's an alumni association. So that's where you go and you have, camaraderie, support. They have some benefits and things for you to do. And it represents that you're a graduate of that school. Trust me, if we could have done what we are doing now under the banner of CSNNA, we would have done it because they're much more well-funded than we are. And, there's ongoing support there that we don't have. We have to generate everything on our own. So we would have stayed, gladly stayed. But unfortunately, we can't represent the industry under that banner because it only is one school. And there's 3 other schools in Canada that graduate holistic nutritionists. So we had to start our own association. But yeah, there's absolutely no conflict. You can belong to as many associations as you like. There's no conflict whatsoever as far as we're concerned. Yes.
How do they get continuing education credits listed? I think I found where we are, so I'll read them off to you.
That would be fabulous. So what do you mean listed? Like you want to know what counts as, I know my brain's going to work in a minute. Continuing education, or you want to know, get something approved. It doesn't really matter. You just contact the office and we'll tell you what, you just ask us, normally if it's anything nutrition related or counseling related or even business related with, the idea of it's usually approved. There's really, we just want to see that you're actively growing your knowledge and deepening your knowledge, especially if it's helping you earn money. We think that's really important.
What is the risk of the Ontario provincial government disallowing the profession like they have in Alberta and other provinces?
Alberta has always had stricter regulations in the first place. They were never allowed to use the word registered. So for years, they had to be RHN without spelling it out. Then they lost the right to the word registered and they became certified holistic nutritionists. And then within a year, they lost the right to the word nutritionist. So it's a different sort of circumstances. Ontario and BC probably have the most relaxed situation going on. They're the least likely to lose theirs, with the exception of perhaps the Northwest Territories and the Yukon, who are grateful for anybody to be up there practicing anything, because I know holistic nutritionists who do that, and they're welcomed because they need practitioners up there. You know, right now, I believe there's even some legislation in Nova Scotia that they're trying to get use of the word nutrition, which would be a real bummer. I don't know if that'll ever fly. But I don't think it's going to happen in Ontario, and I really don't think BC has actually had some recognition on a government level that MDs can actually refer to nutritionists if they want. So it's been like discussed. There's nothing to impede MDs from recommending to or referring to nutritionists, period. But it hasn't been promoted, I guess, from the College of Physicians and Surgeons in Ontario or other provinces, but it has on some level in BC. So I don't think there's any risk.
Well, one of the things to remember is that the reason that happened in Alberta was because it got to the courts, right? Like the government didn't care. It was the dietitians who decided to bring it to the courts and make this decision because they got annoyed and they got pissed off. So I think, you know, theoretically it can happen anywhere if it ends up in the court. And one of the reasons we think that professional associations are so important is that it gives us a place to come together and talk about this stuff to make sure that everybody is acting the way they should so that this kind of thing doesn't happen, and knows what the rules are and are up to date with who's saying what and who's thinking what and who's, you know, we need to talk to each other and know what each other's doing. And we can't do that unless we have an association that brings us all together. So that's one of the things.
Exactly. And it's just, you know, our dietitians aren't as organized as Alberta's. I don't know if it's because there's so many, like it's, you know, we've got such a high population. I don't really know. We just don't seem to run into the same incidences that they have. It's been bad there for quite some time.
Joanna is one of our members, and she wants to help us contact more HR people and give us names of HR professionals. So I said, yes,
absolutely. Send them along.
It's our huge initiative. It's our huge push right now. So it's what we're working on really, really hard.
Yeah. And it's even better if it's coming from members, because if we can then turn around and say, you know, if you're looking for someone, contact this member, because we know that members in that geographical location, that is what we also want to do as well.
Joanna's asking about the free training that you get as members of CanPro. Why isn't all of the training free? Why do we have to choose only one to be free when they're members?
Because we're a nonprofit organization, we have to earn money. So we thought one free was good. They're not very expensive. They're fairly inexpensive.
Well, and it's a tricky one, Joanna, because, you know, for a while we were kind of talking about, you know, maybe all of these, you know, we saw some holes, right? We saw there's certain trainings that nutritionists weren't getting in school, holistic nutritionists weren't getting in school, and we wanted them to have. And so we came up with these training programs. And on the one hand, we thought, well, maybe they should just be for members. You have to be a CanPro member in order to get access to this training. But then that was a little bit too exclusive, and we didn't have the numbers, and we want people to have this information and this training. So we opened it up to anybody, but we have to pay people to give the training as well. And we thought, okay, but we want there to be an incentive for people to join CanPro. I'm just being very honest. And so we thought, well, let's give as a perk, we will pay for one of these courses for our CanPro members as a bit of an incentive. So
yeah, it's always a catch-22, because if people in the profession don't earn a living, they're not going to be members. So we want to help people in the profession earn a living, so they will be members. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's a good position to be in, because quite honestly, like a lot of people graduate as holistic nutritionists and don't practice a lot. And changed over the last 8 years that I've been in practice, but it's improved because now there's more resources for us, and people graduate and they have a place to go and learn about business and about various things that they need to learn. So it's improving, but our numbers are still quite low.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. People have questions about the logo. Can they use the CanPro logo if they are an associate member?
Yes, they can. But if they're practicing, we wouldn't like to, that would be implying they're a member, like that they're doing. It's the difference between an associate. They don't do the upgrading, they don't do, and we don't track them, and they're not on track for the board certification. So that's a bit of an issue. We don't want to imply that we're vouching for their standards because they haven't engaged in that process because they're not a standard or board certified member. So that's a bit tricky. Did that make sense? I hope.
No, confusing. So can they use it if they're an associate, or do they have to be board certified to use it?
We can create a logo that says associate member with the logo. That'll probably be the simplest thing to do.
That's how we roll. We get input and we make changes.
That's just right. Like that. That's the simplest answer because again, what's the point? So if for someone to be a standard member, if they get the logo, right? So
yeah. Because one of the whole points of this is to elevate our profession, right? Is to create standards and to show everybody that we actually are professionals. We're not just people talking about food. We actually have a profession. Okay, Dana, if I am in the midst of my studies with Alive Academy, can I join as an associate?
Yes, you can join as an associate, but unfortunately Alive Academy is not a recognized school. And it's not that there's anything wrong with Alive Academy. It's a lovely program, but it doesn't cover the chemistry, biochemistry, anatomy, symptomatology, and the case study work that the recognized schools do. And so it's not as extensive. It's a nice program to add on to another modality, like if you're a fitness trainer or a massage therapist or something like that. But it doesn't qualify for standard or board certified membership. But you can be an associate member.
Sherry says, thank you, Lorraine, for reiterating the value of standing together in a professional association and the importance of adhering to scope of practice. Your extensive knowledge, experience, insight, and support of our profession is beyond admirable and greatly appreciated.
Thank you, Sherry.
That is nice.
I think I know who Sherry this is too, but that's beside the point.
I don't know if you said this because I was kind of scrolling through the comments when not listening when you were talking, but I think it's important for everybody to know that Lorraine, she's kind of she I don't know if you want to say like you're kind of the head of CanPro, maybe the director, but there is a whole board of directors that works with her. So some people I've heard say, it's kind of the Lorraine Soros show. And, it's not, because Lorraine has taught us all a lot, but she has a board to stay accountable to. And there's a lot of work going on as a team of us. How many of us are there? There's quite a few.
Oh, there's at least 9.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have them across Canada, and it's quite a nice group to work with, because it gives you the sense that the profession has depth because these people are of such good quality. It's really, really nice. Like, I enjoy our board meetings because they're so productive, and the people on the board are just phenomenal people. Just phenomenal. And that concludes Jess.
Thanks. Heather says, do you have to be a CanPro member in order to practice? Example, I am starting a nutrition/Reiki practice. Do I need to be a CanPro member, or can I wait on the membership for just a little bit? I do intend to join.
Legally, there's nothing that stops you from practicing. That's part of the problem. And don't get me wrong, I'm not rushing you to join or anything like that. It would be better if you're part of an association, but legally, yeah, you can just throw your shingle up. That's the thing with being an unregulated profession.
we kind of all have to decide that we all need to be part of part of an association, right? Because there's no, like when you graduate from medical school, you actually can't practice as an MD unless you join the College of Physicians, right? But that's not, it doesn't work that way for us. We just have to decide that we need to do this to stay unified and stay up to date and stay, current and that sort of thing.
Right.
Scope of practice is also on CSNN 8 at the Alumni Association's dashboard. Oh,
yes.
Okay, there it is. You can access it there. We need another webinar. Yeah, we do need another webinar. Yeah, we'll do more webinars. Is there a Performa letter?
Performa? Yes.
Performa
Yes.
Care letters, or do we have to be a member of CAMPRO to access
Oh,
it?
sorry. Yes, it is a part of the CAMPRO membership. Sorry. Yes. Yes, there's a letter, and yes, you have to be a member of CAMPRO.
But there's nothing stopping
because we write it to represent what CAMPRO stands for, right? So this board certification process and what we're trying to achieve. So they understand what we're doing. So yes.
Kelly, I think the board certification is a great idea.
Thank you, Kelly. We think so too.
Joanna, can we start a petition to sway the other organizations to encourage them to work with us on behalf of us as nutrition professionals?
It would be difficult, not the CANMP one so much, but the INOC would be extremely difficult because they have a completely different agenda. And they have a bunch of people in their association who are not holistic nutritionists, so it's messy. But I think success breeds attraction. Is that the word? Is that the right expression?
Sure.
Yeah. The more you succeed, the more people want to be around you. And so we're trying to create this momentum so that people want this. They see it, they get it, they want it. They want to be a part of it. And I think that'll bring us together.
Yeah. I had an idea. I had a thought and I lost it. It'll come back. What is the best school to take holistic nutrition?
Well, we recognize 4 schools: CSNN, IHN, Edison, and Pacific Rim. And so their standards are all very similar. The length of time for study is similar. The biochemistry, the symptomatology, all that stuff is there. We actually are working very closely with the NANP in the US, who are also a regulatory association, self-regulatory association. They have a board certification process. Theirs is a little tougher than ours, but we are in constant contact with them because it's so shocking how like-minded we are, and we're going to be talking about how we can, jointly market each other and our profession, and see what kind of strategies we can come up with that would be helpful for both countries, because they have similar problems. They have the same issues we have. Theirs is just a little more complicated than ours is. It's a lot easier to practice in Canada than in the US. Some states are identical to Canada, like California and New York and Massachusetts and places like that. But they have some states where that's really difficult. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting development with them.
I love them, actually. It's one of my favorite things to do is to talk to them because they so are the same. But anyway.
Yeah. What is the best way to prepare for the board certification exam?
You join first, and then we send you the materials. You study, and when you're ready, you let us know. You find a proctor, and we do have some proctors in major cities. And then when you're ready, we send the exam and you write it. It's really not that difficult. It's just learning your scope of practice code of ethics. And, we have some other materials for you to read. It's not extensive materials. It's not going to take you hours and hours of study or anything like that. We're just really trying to stay focused on the basics for now. In a perfect world, the board certification would also validate the nutrition knowledge too. But we're leaving that up to the schools for now, and we'll see if we need to go deeper in the future. But we'd want to we want to have something in return for it from, government or insurance companies, or, like it becomes something that would really, really help us with the recognition factor before we would insist on that for members.
Elizabeth says she's a member of both. I'm not sure if she means the Alumni Association and CanPro or CANMP and CanPro, but I don't know what you mean, Elizabeth. But which 3 schools? I think that was covered. One of the things about the schools that, we only recognize certain schools, because one of the things that Lorraine mentioned was that insurance companies and corporations and anybody who's working with us wants it super simple. Right? They, like you said, they don't want us to be covering, nutrition and Reiki and yoga and whatever. They want our association just to be holistic nutritionists with very similar training. And so that's why we're making those decisions, because that's what they want in order to recognize us.
Yeah, and it doesn't stop you from being a Reiki person. That's a separate modality, and it has its own recognition, right? So it doesn't stop you from doing it.
Trish says, so much more clear now why I should be a member. Thanks, Trish. Thank you.
It's okay. I know who Trish is too. I had a lovely conversation with Trish back in at the Zonulin event, I believe.
You have to submit proof of continuing education and do webinars count.
Sorry, what was that?
You have to submit proof of continuing education and do webinars count. I guess that means
so you have to submit.
Yes.
Normally what we do is, for example, in the case of our webinars, we have you do a quiz. It's like 3 questions that just verify that you listened, because again, upgrading does not mean, that you take what you want from upgrading for your profession, right? So if it's one of ours, obviously we know we've given you the quiz and you've submitted in, and it's a very simple process. The same with our workshop if it's done online. Obviously, if it's live, because we do our Building Your Nutrition Business live, then we can sign for it for you. Like, you can just give us your receipt or we'll sign it or whatever. We also keep an attendance record. And then if you're going to someone else's workshop or someone else's webinar, well, see, again, they have to do the quiz for the webinars. But if it's a live thing or a course, you just have to have some type of proof. We don't necessarily ask you to submit it, but if we ask you to show us proof, then, it's kind of like when you file your taxes, how you get to file your taxes and you don't have to send the receipts in, but if they ask you, you have to produce them. It's kind of like that. So you do have to have some form of proof.
Kelly says, I'm certified with the American Society of Quality, who has a recertification workbook. In the long run, something like that, a standard workbook might be good for CanPro too.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot more, like, we've learned a lot from NANP in the US. There's a lot that can be done within self-regulation, but we have to be a big enough organization to justify the work, because at some point you have to pay people to do that work. And they have to be qualified to do that kind of work, to create those sorts of things. And so, there is more we can do for sure.
Was this recorded? Because the one said that.
Yes, it is recording as we speak.
Perfect. Okay, so there'll be a recording sent out. What else? You're welcome, Heather. Our spirits shine. Thank you, Heather. Thank you so much for your hard work. As a new graduate, I feel like I have the support to start my own business. Yeah, that's really our whole point. We want to support people to start their own businesses, and we want them to be successful at their businesses. And we were, well, I'll speak for myself, very unhappy that so many people chose not to practice when they graduated, because they didn't have an industry to fall into. When I graduated, it was like that. It's like you didn't have an industry to fall into. And that's really what we're trying to fix. Yeah,
I teach, right, at CSNN. And so I know how many people enter the field and how many do not. And it makes me very sad too. It makes me very sad.
Joanna says, let's get organized to collectively reach out to any HR professionals that we know. What's the best way to do this? Can you, CanPro, provide us with a letter that we can send to HR folks, or would you prefer that we send the names and contacts to you at CanPro?
Probably initially, we like to make the contacts ourselves, but once we have a pattern as to how it works, we would love to have members doing it, and we would provide them with the documentation that they need. But we want to make sure, if we determine that it requires follow-up phone calls and what kind of questions they ask and all that sort of thing, we're going to document it all, and then we'll have a formula, if you want to call it that, or here's what they're going to ask you, here what the answers are, this kind of thing. Then we would love to mobilize our membership to do even more. We could do more faster, sooner.
Mm-hmm.
So I will be in touch with you, Joanna, because I know who you are too.
Heather says, how will this I think we may have covered this, but I'm not sure. How will the association help the provinces that are currently not allowed to use the RHN title? I can see the benefit for Ontario and BC. So I'm not sure, Heather, if you mean how will we help the provinces like Alberta where you can no longer use that title, or how will prevent that from happening?
We're not using the title in our proposals. We're calling it Holistic Nutrition Professionals so that it will work for everyone across Canada. And Alberta is one of the provinces that we are targeting, because that's where it's, like I said, there's 3 provinces where we have the highest concentration of holistic nutrition professionals or nutritionists. That's BC, Alberta, and Ontario. We are targeting all provinces and territories, but our obviously the biggest focus and where we have the most members we're going to target more human resource people. And so we are targeting Alberta. It doesn't matter that you can't use the word nutritionist, because we're not going to use the word nutritionist. We're just going to talk about what we do and how we do it, and we're holistic nutrition professionals, because we are the Canadian Association of Holistic Nutrition Professionals. See how that ties nicely together? That worked out very well. We didn't plan it that way, but it worked out well.
Karen says she was on the board for the NANP and big on the legislation and the AND. Some states it's illegal. What? I'm not sure what that means.
Well, that is a really nice piece of news to know, Karen. Maybe you want to come on to the CanPro board.
Yeah, get in touch with us, Karen.
As I said, we love them.
Can you list recognized schools in Ottawa? So I think the schools were listed already.
Yeah, you have IHN, for live classroom, you have IHN and CSNN. And then, of course, you've got Distance Ed with CSNN and Edison. And I think at Pacific Rim is Distance Ed too.
Can you get sent the quiz automatically if you attend a webinar? It depends on the webinar.
Yes. Oh. I email out. There's always an email that goes out afterwards, because usually something comes up in the webinar that people want some information, whatever. So there's always an email that goes out with the quiz afterwards, because I have to listen to the webinar to get the questions, because there's always something that's said in the webinar. So I try to pick something that, if you were listening, you heard. So it always comes out after the webinar.
And does this count as an external practicum? For CSN? If you're in Toronto, go to Laurier.
I don't think it counts. We could make it count. I don't know. What do you think, Jess? Should we make it count?
I don't know. That's your department.
Oh, thanks. We'll think about it.
It's not really, I don't know. Even in my regional municipality in the middle of nowhere, they have an economic development office and assigned me a free business coach as a startup. Yeah, good for you, Kathy. Yeah, lots of things. Have you contacted the HR department with Acuren? They are a large company across Canada. I used to work for them and may be able to get you their information.
Please do.
Awesome. All of this stuff. We are very much an association for our members. And I think one of the things that we want to do better over the coming year, let's say, and beyond, is kind of bring us together as a community a little bit more, and have more webinars like this where we can have discussion and make make use of our members, really, so that we can do this kind of thing. I mean, there's members who have amazing connections, and we really want you to be a part of this so that we can grow it together, because it's not going to happen if it's just, you know, the board doing its little thing. It's got to be a community initiative.
Yeah, and we do have, like I said, we wanted to launch this, and we do have a strategy that we're going to present to members as soon as we have all the pieces in place and we know exactly how the people are reacting, and, you know, and we're going to provide them with things that they can be doing themselves as well, because we think we'll go further, farther, faster. But we also want to get more members in, because the more members we have, the more we can go and get this done. So it's kind of like we're doing a three-prong approach, right? We're doing the marketing, we're, you know, making sure we have the standards, and we're trying to get the membership numbers up so that we can create this momentum.
Yeah. So there's a lot of suggestions in the chat, and I think we'll be able to see those right afterwards, I think, Lorraine? Oh, we won't be able to see them?
I don't think so.
Oh, no. Okay. So maybe what we should do is ask people to email these suggestions so that we have them all in one place, because there's some really good ones, and there's some people reaching out with ideas and thoughts and concerns. Does that make sense to do?
I think so, yes. So if you email it to info, I'll put it into the chat here, info@canpro.org. That will get directly to me and to Kelly, who's another board member, because we're the only two that check the emails. And yeah, please. And Karen's given us her email address. I'm going to write it down. It's so nice to look at your picture. It's so smiley, Jessica.
Yeah, that's why I have it up there, because you don't want to see me right now. The chat is not visible, Heather. I think you have to press on chat at the top. If you're not seeing chat, you might be on offers if you're still on the offers thing. Yeah, lots of really, really great ideas here. Thank you all for all of these things. So this way, we'll just start a spreadsheet of all of these ideas, and we'll just keep moving on them. Right?
Yes, absolutely. I'm very pleased that you guys are so responsive to this. This is makes us feel good. You know, sometimes you are doing this work and you're operating kind of like in the trenches, and you don't get to see and hear. This is why I love the online stuff and the webinars, because you really get to see and hear from more people what they think and what's going on. So thank you very much, everyone.
What should people do now?
If they want to do what? Join?
Yeah.
Join. That's a good thing. You know, obviously we have some of our own members on here, which is great. Hopefully we're going to get more members out of that. I will be sending out an email to just sort of let everybody know what we've done, and thank you with the replay. Heather says rally around the campfire. I like that. And then we'll just take it from there. And if you've got stuff to send to us, please do. And I think that's a good start. And if depending on what kind of response we get to this, will determine when we have the next webinar. We were going to have another one in December, but if we have enough response that there's more people want to talk and chat about, we could do one in September, and sort of, update people and let you know how things are going too. So we can do that as well. Heather's asking, how many members are there currently? That's a lovely question. Probably between 150 to 200. It varies because there's people who haven't renewed their membership, but they think they're still members. I have people who haven't renewed for 2 years and they say, oh, I'm a member. And I'm like, well, no, you haven't renewed for 2 years. So I don't know if we should count them or not. And so there's always this fluctuating. There's those that we know are members because they renew, or they're just new members or whatever. And then there's this fluctuating group. And again, that's part of the problem with the profession and, why we want to strengthen the concept of association, because then they get it more and they're going to be more prompt. And probably people would say, well, why don't you just kick them out or something like that? Well, I don't know. I've always had a philosophy: you keep people in the conversation. You always keep people in the conversation as much as you can, within reason, I might say. Okay, I just see lots of thank yous now. We're missing Lori. Like, I guess she didn't succeed in getting her daughter to bed, because she did text me and say she was coming at the end, and she knew what time that would have meant 8:30. So I don't know what happened to her. So I hope nothing is wrong. But she's here in spirit. We'll just have to think of it. Elizabeth says, yes, more webinars. It's nice to hear where our profession is heading. Very informative. Thank you very much. Okay, I think we have done this well. I appreciate all of you for coming. I really thank you, Jessica, for being here and lending your voice to this, because I think this is important. That's why I also wanted Lori to be here as well. And we will have probably on other webinars, other board members as well, so you can see what a strong team it is. It really is a great team. Okay, so thank you very much, everyone. You have a lovely evening, and hopefully we'll see you on the next webinar.
Thanks, everyone.